Good morning. Welcome to DeKalb County's presentation of the DeKalb Youth Safety and Violence Prevention Grant. My name is Latasha Williams, and I have the pleasure of serving as a Human Services Administrator in the DeKalb County Human Services Department, which has been charged with administering this grant. I also am responsible for our Innovations and Communications and Quality Assurance Division, and we're very happy to have you joining us this morning. This morning, we will be discussing the purpose, the goals, and the eligibility criteria for the DeKalb Youth Safety and Violence Prevention Grant. We will show you what to do to obtain the application, and we'll also discuss the components of the application and our timelines for submittal. Our program guidelines have been emailed to all registrants who have registered for this webinar. And at this time, I would like to introduce our Department Director, Mr. Damon Scott.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Latasha. Latasha handles our quality assurance and does an incredible job for us in that space. And I would like to thank you all for your attendance today as we discuss our DeKalb Youth Safety and Violence Prevention Grant Initiative. In April of this year, DeKalb County CEO Michael Thurman issued a call to action to address our youth safety and violence prevention during his 2022 State of the County address. In May, the DeKalb Board of Commissioners approved an agenda item and a funding allocation for this initiative and this grant opportunity. The purpose of this grant is to provide opportunities for community partnerships with local organizations that implement youth violence prevention and intervention strategies within DeKalb County, Georgia. Our primary goal is to provide resources to local nonprofits that are currently working to address prevention and reduction of child, youth, and teen violence within our community. Our mission in the Human Services Department is to build and maintain sustainable communities and to improve the public safety for all who live, work, and play in DeKalb. And we see our grantees as an extension of the DeKalb Human Services Department. And so our department is leading this initiative for the CEO of the county, and we're very excited about what's going to happen. And so we appreciate your interest and your involvement in this opportunity. We hope that you find that this webinar to be informative and valuable. Now I would like to introduce Ms. Annette Vanderveer, Juris Doctorate, who is serving as our team lead for this initiative. Annette?
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you, even though we're in a webinar. I'm glad we're all together. I want to give you a brief overview of the agenda this morning. We will next have how to access the application. That will be given by Jimmy Brooks. The timeline will be given by Bernita Smith. I will provide eligibility and the use of the grant funds and go over the grant application service areas. An overview of the application will be made by Latasha Williams. I'll also provide the evaluation criteria and key points, and then a wrap up with Q&A with Jonquil Harris. Next is how to access the application. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jimmy Brooks. I work alongside all these wonderful people here in the innovations team. And how to access the application. First and foremost, what I do want to show you all is that you will have to go onto our grants website, our Human Services website to download the reference form. And I will show you exactly what that looks like. In the meantime, in the chat, we will also list the exact web address that you would need to go on in order to get this form. Now, the reference form is a PDF document, a fillable PDF document that you must, again, complete to begin the process. In this form, you will put your organization's name, the URL of your organization, and give us at least two individuals in order for us to communicate with to complete the document. This must be completed and sent back to us at the email address Youth Safety Grant. Once you have that, then you will have access to our SharePoint site to where you can upload documents as needed, as well as
Did he freeze?
Yes.
Okay.
as to what the Excuse me, I apologize about that. I'm having a few internet difficulties. As to the beginning steps, as I said, you will have to download the application, the reference form, and that must be completed. Make sure that you have 2 individuals who are on that reference form. Once it's completed, email that reference form to the Youth Safety Grant email that's right here. This document that you're looking at right here is our quick manual for SharePoint. SharePoint, of course, is our system of choice. It's a cloud-based repository that stores applications, stores Word documents, Excel files. If you've ever used Windows Explorer, it's like the online version to that. So again, in terms of what this document holds, you have the definitions of things that can be found in SharePoint, and also the beginning steps of exactly how you would be able to get the process started. Once you email the registration form to this email address here, then a folder for your organization will be created in our SharePoint site. That once it's created, it will be shared with you. Once it's shared with you, you will receive an invitation email address. It should look something along the lines of like this image right here. Once you receive this, click on open. Once you click open, you will then get another email from our system, which is a verification email. The verification email is done so that it's done for security reasons, to make sure you are who you say that you are. Once you input the verification code that's found in the verification email, then you'll be allowed into our system to where you can input information. Also, the application will be listed in there, as well as the guideline handbook. Now, a couple of things, troubleshooting. Since these emails are system generated, a lot of times they do go to the junk mail. So please, after you have sent in the registration form and you haven't received any kind of link, any kind of invitation email, please check your junk mail to see if the email is actually sitting in there. If it's not in your junk mail and it's still not in your inbox, please let us know. You can email the same email address to let us know that you're having technical difficulties, and we will be able to assist. Now, as far as what's found in SharePoint, of course, it is very similar to Windows Explorer, to where you can drag and drop any documents that you need to in order to help apply for the application. The application will be sitting in there already. You can complete the application on the SharePoint site, or you can download it and work on it offline. Types of files that our SharePoint site can take, they can be PDF files, they could be Word files, Excel files, text documents, and also JPEGs. Our SharePoint site does not accept any type of executable program, nor does it accept any type of access database. Any other file should be able to be accepted by our SharePoint site. All right, so the next we will have Bernita Smith with the timeline.
Good morning, everyone. This is our timeline. So if you don't need to write all of this down because it's included in your application. So our deadline for you to submit your grant application is Wednesday, June 22nd, before 5:00 p.m. You follow the directions as Jimmy spoke about, and then you upload them to the SharePoint. We will review the applications for those that meet the threshold requirements, that meet the minimum eligibility criteria that Annette will talk about between June 23rd and June 24th. Those applicants that do not meet the threshold will be notified by email on Friday, June 24th. We will review all grant applications between June 24th through July 8th with a team of unbiased experts in this field. We will recommend applicants for funding to the Board of Commissioners on Tuesday, July 26th. The applicants will then be notified of the Board of Commissioners' decisions on Friday, July 29th. We're on a really accelerated timeline. So if it seems like we're compacting a lot, we are, because we really want this project to start getting going. We will send all memorandum of agreements also on Friday, July 29th. And then we will hold our grantee orientation meeting on Wednesday, August 3rd. And I will pass the next presentation on to Annette.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bernita. I'm going to speak about the minimum eligibility requirements. Primarily as a nonprofit, you will need to have at least 2 years of a proven track record of performance in DeKalb County, which means you're serving DeKalb residents. These are, let me just start by saying these are non-negotiable requirements in order to apply for this grant. You also must be registered with the Secretary of State as a Georgia nonprofit corporation. And you have received your IRS tax exempt letter, and you have the 501c3 tax exempt status. Most importantly, and I want to really stress this, you must have completed an independent audit by a certified public accountant within the last 2 years, which is 2020 and 2021. It must be on letterhead of that CPA. So I'm going to repeat that again. You must have a completed independent audit conducted by a CPA, a certified public accountant, on his or her letterhead for the year either 2020 or 2021. Now, as I go into the grant application service areas, there are 6 areas, and you need to meet a minimum of just one of these areas in terms of the application. Those areas are youth intervention, crisis intervention, employment opportunities and job training, mental health and behavioral health, education and parenting skills, gang prevention, hospital-based violence intervention models with wraparound services, and capacity building efforts at the community level, community violence intervention programs. And I believe the next person is going to be Latasha, and she's going to talk about the application itself and provide you with an overview.
Thank you, Annette. Let's talk about the application. Our application is going to be electronic, as Jimmy mentioned. The form itself is in Excel. It's an Excel file. And to receive a copy of the application, for those of you who may have joined us late, we do require that you go on the county's website and to complete the reference form. Once the reference form is complete, we will grant you access to SharePoint, which is the mechanism that you will use in order to submit your electronic application. So an overview of the application itself. We have an application cover sheet, which is a checklist for you of things to complete. The application includes operations and program information about your organization. We would also include a section that talks about projected outcomes. What is it that you hope to gain from receiving the funds and what your program outcomes are? Your proposed DeKalb County program budget, how much money you're asking of the county, and then your financial information for your total agency as well as your certification. Those are the overview. That's an overview of the application. And then at this time, I'm going to ask Jimmy to switch over to the Excel document itself, and I will provide more detail about what you can expect to see once you receive our application. Okay, thank you, Jimmy. So again, as I mentioned, the application is in an Excel form. This is a protected document that will guide you to all of the sections that you need to complete. When you open the document, you'll see this page here. If you notice at the bottom of the page, we have several tabs that are important for you to pay attention to. So the first tab is your notification sheet. The second tab is the table of contents for the entire document. The next tab is your calendar. As Bernita mentioned, there's no reason to write it down because all of the information is in the document in terms of the deadlines. So again, applications will be due on June 22nd at 5 p.m. or by 5 p.m. to be submitted. We've also included the instructions on how to obtain the copy of the application in here, as well as the timeline schedule for our review and for our notification of you regarding your grant status. Okay, the next tab is the cover and checklist sheet. Now, as I mentioned, we have guided, because this is a protected document. If you follow the yellow highlighted areas, those are areas within this file that we're asking you to complete. So you'll see at the top, we're asking for your organization name and the name of the program that you would like to be funded. On the side, on the left-hand side here where it says mark here, you can place a check mark once you have obtained every item here that we're requesting for the grant application. So I want to stop at the first one here, which is our program narrative. We're requesting you to provide for us a 5-page program narrative that details the community need for the program and your program's primary clients that you serve, as well as a description of the work that you're actually doing. We're asking you to include any best practices that you may have, and then speak specifically about how your program addresses DeKalb County clients. So that's one item that we're requesting. The second item is an electronic copy of your bylaws. We're asking you to upload those, as well as a copy of your certificate of articles of incorporation from the Georgia Secretary of State. And then also a copy of a certification from the IRS that you're a 501c3 organization. The fifth item here is an electronic copy of 2 separate sets of your most recent and consecutive board meetings, minutes. So if you're a nonprofit and you have a board of directors, we're asking you to include 2 copies of your most recent board meeting minutes. In item 6, we're asking for a copy of a letter of recommendation that your organization may have received from any government or private institution within the last 2 years. A critical area that we want to tell you about is that funding for your grant. This is an unallowable expense that we have, that funding for your project cannot exceed 50% of the budget of your overall agency. And this is important because our goal is to support and supplement programs, and we want to ensure that our grant funding would not put your organization in jeopardy. And again, a critical criteria is that your program must serve DeKalb County residents. Jimmy, if you could scroll down for me. Item 7 is your agency must include information regarding your proven track record of acceptable performance. And so this is tell us your mission statement, your agency overview, and give us a brief history of your organization in terms of how long you've served, and that's 2 pages or less. We're asking for an electronic copy of your organizational chart, as well as a written narrative describing staff experience. And this is important. Sometimes people will include an organizational chart and miss the written narrative describing staff experience. So that's important. And then number 9 is an electronic copy of your current agency budget as approved by your board of directors. And then 10 is critical. That's one of those minimum threshold requirements that Annette mentioned, is an electronic copy of your independent audit by a licensed certified public accountant, a CPA, on auditor's letterhead. And we're looking for something that was done either in 2020 or 2021 as it relates to your audit. If there are any licenses that you have that to run your program that are applicable to the grant, we're asking you to include a copy of those. And then you've got to indicate to us on your priority area on your application, which you're going to address. And then 12 is collaboration. We would like to see your collaborative efforts. So we're asking for a statement of commitment from each collaborating organization for the grant. And we're asking you to detail their roles in implementing your proposed program. And then here on this box here, it says 2 or 3 brief sentences stating the purpose of your program that you're requesting funds for. Okay, and that's your cover sheet and checklist. So if you complete all of these items, you should have a complete application to submit to us for review. So that's why we include the cover sheet and checklist for you. We'll move on to page 1. And this is just some overall general information about your organization that we need. Again, your agency name, your tax ID number, name of the program to be funded. We want to know, again, how many years have you provided service in DeKalb County? And keep scrolling down for me, Jimmy. Date of agency incorporation, any previous names. Of course, we need your mailing, address information and contact information, website, phone numbers, your emails. It's critical to us that we have working emails. We need to know the director's email information, as well as the contact name of the person who will be responsible for program coordination or management. So that's a critical area that we would need to make sure that we have a way to get in contact with you. Scroll down for me, Jimmy. We're also asking for you to give us a total budget request here. This is just your summary. We'll ask for detailed information further along in the application. And we're asking for in item C, a percentage of proposed program budget to be supported by DeKalb grant funds. So and estimate the total program dollars to be spent serving DeKalb County clients. And then in item 12, in 2 or 3 sentences, state the benefits of the funded program to the DeKalb County community. We'll move on to page 2. And this is, again, some general information that we need from you. We're asking you, again, this is just a check to help make sure that you've completed your agency's mission statement, along with an overview of the how your organization manages and operates different within DeKalb County. And so it goes with item 7, and you just put yes or no if you've included it. Attach an organizational chart, again, with your program staffing and information. This goes as item 8 or appendix 8. And again, a checkbox of yes or no as to whether you've included it. The name of your governing authority. If your board of directors has a specific name or a foundation, we would like that information there. And 16 says include a current list of board of directors. Check yes or no if you've included that. Again, your agency budget, again, check yes or no if you've included it. And your audit, check again, yes or no if you've included it. So we've built in several checks and balances to ensure that you are able to provide us with a complete application with this approach that we have here. And item 19, again, states your clients to be served. How many clients are in the entire metro Atlanta area for your agency? And then we're asking you to break it down to give us unduplicated clients to be served in DeKalb County. And so that's of importance to us. And then item 20, any federal, state, or local government licensing requirements that you have, yes or no. And again, we're asking you to include those in the previous section. Okay, Jimmy, page 3. This talks about your collaborations. For the purpose of this application, collaborations are defined as 2 or more organizations working together on a particular program through a memorandum of understanding or a memorandum of agreement. And so we're asking you again to list any agency that you work with in a collaborative manner, and then identify for us the goals or the benefits of your working relationship. Scroll down for me, Jimmy. Okay, and again, we're asking you to attach any copies of memorandums, agreements, contracts, or MOUs. And then item 23, attach documentation of 2 other current funding sources for your program. And this is, again, for us to ensure that we are supplementing the work that you're already doing. And so that is of critical importance to us for that particular item. 24, estimate the percentage of all DeKalb residents benefiting from your program. that are moderate or low income. And then we would like to know if there are any fees associated with the services that you provide. And that's yes or no, if there's a sliding scale as well, yes or no. 27, has your agency suffered any losses as a result of fraudulent activities? And so again, this is just our financial check just to make sure that your organization is sound. And 27B, list the category your program addresses. Again, we're asking you to identify if your program falls in one of these areas, which is critical to this particular grant opportunity: youth intervention, crisis intervention, employment opportunities for youth, including youth entrepreneurship, job training, mental health and behavioral health, education and parenting skills, gang prevention, hospital-based violence intervention models that include wraparound services, or capacity building efforts at the community violence intervention programs. Okay. Page 4 talks about our program outcomes, and this was listed as a logic model. I am going to ask Annette just to provide us with an overview of page 4.
Okay, the projected outcomes, you are looking at an example on page 4. And you see the first quarter is filled in. So what you're going to do here is project for the year and fill out all 4 quarters. You're projecting both the units of service and how many you will serve. And you're also giving the type of service here in terms of what you're doing in your program. So when you go all the way across from quarter 1 all the way over to quarter 4, you will have a total or a percentage of each outcome that's going to be accomplished for that year, for that full time. So in other words, those of you that are familiar with logic models may know this, but those that are new, you really are doing a projection. So think of it as, this is how many people I will serve, this is the type of service I will provide, in units for each quarter, and listing those as projections for each quarter. Okay. The next page just goes into the actual projected model itself. It's the projected outcomes model.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Page 5 of the document is, this is where we're asking you to provide detailed information about the budget. You will see here that we have an example for you. If you would like assistance with salaries and benefits for your program, we have a category for that, as well as program materials and office supplies. So you will see here that we have DeKalb requests. This is the first line. How much of that are you requesting from DeKalb? Other acquired funds, how much of the salaries and benefits do you pay from a different source? And then your total program budget, what is the total amount that you need for salaries and benefits? So this is the example at the top. In this section here, we're actually requesting that you fill it in here in yellow at the bottom. So salaries and benefits, again, is an allowable expense as long as it's no more than 50% of your total ask. So if you ask us for $10,000, salaries and benefits can only be $5,000 of that. We also can provide assistance with rent or lease for your program, any mileage, utilities, program materials, office supplies, and other items. In the program guidelines, which were emailed to you, you will find a detailed list of unallowable expenses. So please make sure that you pay attention to the program guidelines. All right, page 6. Page 6 is financial information that we're requesting from you. It lists any source of funds that may apply to you. If it does not apply to you, you may put NA, not applicable. If you have any other government revenue from a federal source or a state source, we're asking to have an understanding of what that is, as well as if you receive funding from any other DeKalb County organization, we would like to know that as well. Can you scroll down for me, Jimmy? Let's see. And we also have a section for non-governmental revenue as well. You'll see on this section of the application that we're interested in having an understanding of your historical finances from fiscal year 2020, fiscal year 2021, what your current finances look in fiscal year 2022, and then proposed finances for fiscal year 2023. Thank you, Jimmy. Moving on to page 7. This is a continuation. We would like to have an understanding of the total funds for any salaries, FICA, unemployment, workers' comp. So this is just again, so we can have a financial understanding of your organization. And this again for fiscal years 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. Okay, page 8 is the last page. This is your certification page. We're asking for your electronic signature of the person that's responsible for the application, whether it be an executive director or board president here. So we're asking for electronic signature on this particular portion. And then this is just a reminder that applications are due uploaded into SharePoint on June 22nd, 2022 by 5:00 p.m. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Annette, who's going to talk about the evaluation process.
Okay, evaluation process. There are, about 6 different categories. And here you're going to see the points that are assigned to organizational capacity, staffing, and administration. This is the criteria that the reviewers will use to actually review and score your applications. Budget funding and resource development, 15 points. Coordination and collaboration, 10 points. Program or project design, 17 points. Projected outcomes, 12 points. Organization of the application itself, 6 points, and it will help if you're using that checklist. And then community impact, 16 points. What I want to add to this as I go into the key points is that even though there are 8 different service areas, and you can go to key points, Jimmy. Let's say your organization serves at least 3 of these. We will only accept 1 application per organization. So, you would demonstrate how you can meet those service areas in 1 application. Remember the application deadline, Wednesday, June 22nd before 5 p.m. You can request the application by completing the reference form for the DeKalb Youth Safety and Violence Prevention Grant. Here is the website. Once we have received your reference form, which means you've completed it and given us 2 names and all of the contact information, you have access to SharePoint. So check on page 5 of your guidelines that were sent to you so that you understand the evaluation process. I gave you a cursory overview. Don't forget to use that cover sheet and checklist. That will help you organize and present a full application. The applications must be uploaded to SharePoint to be successfully submitted. And even if you take the documents out and download them and fill them out, make sure you put them all back together in sequence and upload them back to SharePoint. Otherwise, you have not completed the submission process. That's really important. One other detail I wanted to make sure you knew is that, remember, this is a CEO, the CEO's call to action to address youth safety and violence prevention. So keep the focus in your organization and whatever you do in terms of your application. Keep the focus on youth safety and violence prevention. Next, we'll have Q&A by John Quill.
Good morning, everyone. My name is John Quill, and I'll be monitoring for the questions. We have a few questions regarding funding and age ranges, so I'll begin there. The first question is, does the county have a target range for grant requests?
Great question. We do not have a target range for grant requests. The allocation is $1 million in total, and grant funding will depend on the strength of the application that we receive. So once we evaluate the applications, each application will be reviewed by 3 readers, and you must have an average composite score of 80 to be eligible for award. And so once we determine the number of applications that we have that reach that score of 80, we will complete a formula, a funding formula, and that will help determine the range of funding that you will receive.
Okay, thank you. The next question, is there an age range or ceiling for this?
Annette?
Okay. It is considered a youth prevention grant. So the age range, we do not have a formal age range, but what I would say is if you are serving youth and you have a program that serves youth, and actually I probably need to find out if there's one because I haven't seen one. But if you are serving youth, let us know and we can check it out for you. Okay. But at this time, I don't have an age range.
Would after-school programming for K through 8th grade count towards this?
It depends on the focus of the after-school programming. Again, keep in mind the target, which is to reduce or prevent violence, teen violence in the community. So if you can make an argument that your program helps to reduce or prevent teen violence, we welcome an application from you.
Okay. Can you discuss the expected reporting requirements, including any data collection?
Yes. The reporting requirements will be quarterly. You will need to report quarterly. And data collection, we require in our reporting that we collect data. So you will be providing data on your outcomes. That is correct. And that's part of the reason for doing the projected outcomes page on page 5.
Regarding salaries and benefits, one of the eligible use categories is capacity building, and it almost exclusively lists funding for worker salaries. If we select that category, how do we keep our request to only 50% salaries?
Because you're not just requesting salaries, you're also showing the outcomes of the program. So you should include how it's benefiting the community. How is it benefiting youth safety and violence prevention? So it's more than just requesting money to fund others in the program. It's showing an outcome of the work they're doing.
Right, and that's correct. And so if you want to fund a position, our policy is that for it to only be 50%, we would ask for you to look for other things that you could fund. We have not placed a limit on the amount of funds that you can request for this grant. We do have another grant, our Human Services program grant, that has a limit, and it does have a range. This particular initiative does not have a limit or a range. So you're welcome to submit the amount that you feel appropriate. And if you are awarded funding, we would be potentially negotiating that with you. So hopefully that answers your question.
And we just have 2 more questions that I see. Do schools and organizations in the DeKalb County School District qualify?
Absolutely.
And the last question I have is, what is the time period for the grant?
We're on an accelerated schedule, as Annette mentioned, for the receipt and review of the applications. The award itself would be for a 1-year period. I see several questions in the chat box.
I do too.
John Quill, do you see those?
Yes, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Is a national organization with an established chapter and program in DeKalb eligible to apply?
I believe you would be.
Yes.
You mentioned to prevent teen violence. Does that not infer teens, or does prevention infer prior to teenage years?
I think we're looking at all school age children for the purposes of this particular opportunity. So we did say teens because teens have been in the news most recently, but all school age children would be eligible.
Can new organizations with solid collaborations and partnerships, for example, new DeKalb County school-based programs, still apply? This question is in regards to the 2-year requirement.
We would request that you find a collaborator to provide, to work with, so that you may possibly be eligible. So if you're a brand new organization, we would ask that you look to see if there are collaborators with a longer history of service to DeKalb that you could work with to strengthen your application.
Okay, and would a school qualify even if not a 501c3?
It has to be a 501c3. That's a minimum requirement.
And do you have to reapply for the grant annually?
That's a great question. At this time, this is a one-time allocation. We have not received information that this would be a continuous grant. So at this time, it's a one-time grant.
Okay, did I miss anyone's question? If I did, please add it to the chat box or the Q&A box.
Okay, there's several in the. Okay, we got that one.
There was a question about the time period for the grant. Was that answered? It's 1 year.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
We did answer that. What is the gift range? That has not been determined. We had several questions about the range of the opportunity. When does the year start? The start date? According to our timeline, our hope is to start this grant in August. So you would have 1 year from August. Identify the audit process and details. We're requesting a copy of your agency's audit. Most organizations have an independent certified public accountant or similar agency to conduct an audit of their financials. And so we're asking for that information if you have it. And that is, again, a minimum threshold requirement that your organization has a recent audit.
There's also a question about what information are you looking for in terms to collect for the reporting evaluation for the grant, and how often is the reporting expected? That's the quarterly report. The report will actually have, it will have information, questions asking you about what happened in the last quarter, how many you served, what were the outcomes, and you'll provide just a detailed report, and that's on a quarterly basis.
And that's correct. So it's a program narrative, so a written report, 2 or 3 pages in terms of your outcomes, as well as your any invoices that you would like to have paid as a result of the grant. We are in the process of finalizing how you will be paid, but in previous grants, we have issued payment on a reimbursement basis. We have not finalized that, and we'll have that information as we go along. But at a minimum, reporting will include a program narrative as well as any financial invoices for payment.
For the collaboration between new and established, which organization would be the lead applicant?
We would leave that up to you to determine, but I would suggest the organization with the longer history would be the lead, but we would leave that up to you to determine.
Does the audit have to come from a CPA or can it come from a licensed accountant?
It has to come from a CPA, a certified public accountant.
Do early care and education organizations qualify if they can propose to provide education and parenting skills?
Again, there needs to be a link to youth safety and violence prevention to qualify. That's a great question, though.
But parent education was listed on our list of criteria. And then you are welcome to contact Miss Annette Vanderveer. Her information has been provided, and we can provide you with some small assistance offline outside of this, this webinar. We have any other questions?
I see one more. Depending on program scope, are DeKalb resources available for program support, such as locations, space, transportation, et cetera?
I would say that's a great question as well. I would propose that you come up with options and immediately, I mean, we're not even back to the office yet, so I can't even answer that question. But at this point, I would say come up with as many options as you can to see what we could talk about in terms of resources.
Jonquil, can you read that question one more time for me?
If I'm
Yes, depending on program scope, are DeKalb resources available for program support, such as location, space, transportation?
such as location, office location, I think.
Right. I don't think that we know our program, this particular grant is designed to support organizations that are already doing the work. We want to supplement the work that you are doing. And so we are not committing DeKalb resources outside of funding for this particular opportunity. So just to be clear, the resources that DeKalb would provide would be the funding that you would receive through this grant.
See it as an opportunity to collaborate.
Mhm. Okay.
So if you are reporting, if you are reporting quarterly and including expenditures on that report, then expenses will only be reimbursed quarterly. How much turnaround does your office typically have for that once submitted?
Great question. We would hope to move as fast as possible. And again, that item could be negotiated to some extent. Some of our reimbursement rates are net 15 days and net 30 days. In some instances, we can try to move faster than that. So I would say on average, two weeks.
Is the program expected to be in person, given the needs?
I think we're leaving that up to you to tell us. Again, this is to supplement programs that are already existing. So we are asking you to tell us how you're operating. Given that COVID is still with us, even though we're ready to be done with it, we want to know how your program is currently operating. So if you are operating in person, please tell us that. If you're operating virtually, please tell us that as well. But again, this is to support programs that are already existing.
Okay, so to clarify, do we need to request quarterly?
Do you need to request quarterly? Put your total ask in your application, what you're asking for the entire year. And then as we make an award, we will clarify the funding in terms of whether it will be quarterly or monthly. So we can clarify that as we move along in the process, but we need to see your total ask for the entire year.
Do they know the violence stats for youth in DeKalb?
That's a program staff asking that question to us.
Sorry, I apologize.
No problem. Any additional questions?
Is the state of the county information available? That should be the CEO State of the County.
I believe it's on the county website.
It's on the county website.
Okay.
And there's a complete replay of the speech as well.
Okay.
I think Marcia had a question to clarify the expenses to charge to start in August. Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Right. I see something that's pocket. Okay, can you repeat instructions for accessing the documents? Yes, to access the documents, you must visit the county website. Jonquil, can you put that link in the chat for us one more time? Visit the county website, complete the reference form document, and email it to the address that's listed. Once we receive your reference form, your completed reference form, we will provide you with an invitation to join our SharePoint. Once you receive that invitation to join SharePoint, you will have access to the application. So essentially, you will have a folder inside of SharePoint that you will use to upload your application to us. So you must complete the reference form so that we'll know who to provide access to SharePoint in order to submit your application. Please tell me. Jonquilla, you see the next one that popped up?
Yes, please tell me if we can find a written state of the county. Does it provide stats on communities? I don't know if there's a transcript. Let me see if I can find a link for the video.
The video is on the county website, but I do not believe that there was a transcript of the state of the county. Okay. Okay, so did you see Amy's
All right.
question?
I'm going back up. Yes, I
Okay.
have sent them my request for the full application. When will I receive that invite?
You will receive the invite today. I'm processing them as you all send them. We would not send it out before this public meeting, however. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Annette, can you just review one more time the key points, and then if there are no more questions, we can conclude the meeting.
Okay, so the key points are
Jimmy, can you go back for us?
June 22nd is the deadline to have your application in. Okay, and I'll just leave that up for a second. There's the website to get the reference form. That's the website where you access the reference form to complete, to fill out, and get the application, access to it. The verification process will begin today so that you can be added to SharePoint. We have provided you with the guidelines on the evaluation process. And if you look at page 5, you can look at the point system that we went over. And don't forget to do your cover sheet and your checklist, because this will help you with your organization of your application. And that is one of the criteria in terms of points, the organization of the application. Okay, and lastly, submit it to SharePoint. It has to be uploaded to SharePoint and submitted in order to be a valid submission. And any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you.
This does conclude our presentation. We thank you very much for your time this morning. Please don't hesitate to contact us via email with any additional questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Great job, team.
Thank you. I'm looking for any lingering questions. Let's see.
Can they still see us? Or
One popped up. Oh, was this one left in the, thank
I
you.
think it was answered already.
Okay,
I
good.
didn't know how to clear them out.
Okay. Good. I think that's everything. Thank you so much. I think everyone did a wonderful job, and I appreciate the support from everyone.
We still have a few people who are left over in the room, a few attendees. They're leaving out as of right now.
Okay, good.
Someone asked, will there be another meeting like this?
No, where's that question?
It's in the chat.
The last one in the chat.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see. You want me to respond to that person? Janice. Okay, got it. All right. Thanks, guys. We can go ahead and end the meeting.
All right. Ending it for everyone now.
Hi, guys.
All right. Bye.
Hi.
Thank you.